Hello, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Sunrise Saturday morning. I'm Ayo Makinde again. Welcome to the show. Well, I hope you've had your cup of cocoa this morning, and if it's cocoa you prefer, as I say, Bob's your uncle. Well, the issues around the killings in Benue and the flooding in Mokwa is not something to just forget overnight. Um, have you even made any effort or any appeal to anyone, particularly for Mokwa victims, private organizations, individuals, civil society organizations, not-for-profit and non-governmental organizations? We still need help. Let's not say, okay, because there's another thing in the news that we'll forget that one. We're all human, and we should be able to do a little thing to help each other. So there was something the president said when he visited Benue, and many people may have, you know, just heard it as just one of those things that anyone says. He said specifically to the governor, addressing the governor directly, having visited the hospital and seen people there on the beds and all, in admission, receiving treatment, he said to the governor directly that they should make a move to mobilize people for voluntary blood donation. Remember last week we were talking about World Blood Donor Day, and the president on Wednesday or Thursday when he went to Benue, he was talking about telling the governor and invariably everyone else in the room to mobilize people for voluntary blood donation. I wish the president had brought a blood drive equipment or vehicle from the National Blood Service to that place to have that conversation. Because in 2004, I think, June 2004, yeah, I think it was June 2004. Yes, the president signed the establishment of the Lagos State Blood Transfusion Committee when he was in government, and that established a blood transfusion regulatory system in the state. And of course, we had the CEO of that organization here last week. So when the president made that statement, that was the first thing that came to my mind, that he understands it. He knows what the people need. He knows that it is important for people there in the hospitals, those who need blood, those who need whole blood, those who need platelets, those who need other, components or blood components. It's extremely important. So I hope that the administration in the state is doing something about that one, because it is not something to be taken for granted. It's not something to be remonstrated. It's not just one of those things that a politician says. Even if it's just one of those things a politician says, that one is extremely important. So, because you never really know who needs what and what exactly is needed until the need shows up. So voluntary blood donation, as we told you last week, if you missed it, please go to our YouTube page, channelstv.com, our YouTube page. You'll find out the benefits of blood transfusion. You'll also find out the myths that surround blood transfusion that people have been taking around over the years. The thing is, it's entirely safe. If anything, it is a lot more beneficial to you than it is scary. So calm your nerves on that one. I'd also like to talk about, I took a trip out of town on Thursday. And I went to Oyo State, and it's reminded me of a trip that I also took to Ekiti State, over Ekiti and Ondo States. And I had the privilege of flying a chopper over our lands, and the only thing that could come to my mind was, the land is green. We have abundant resources in this country. And from showing you skylines in different parts of Nigeria, I keep wondering, how can we say we have food food insecurity? How can we say we have hunger? How can we say we have food inflation? How can? Because we have lush grounds, lush lands all over this country. I was in Oyo State, and I happened to travel to, through the roads, which, by the way, amazing. The governor's just made some roads, and wonder why the guy's not talking about it. And he, drove about 2 hours. The road was clean, but on the left and on the right, loads of green, lush land all over the place. And I was asking, how can we say that we have food problem in this country? We have everything we need. Now that the federal government and the states are talking about the special agro-industrial processing zones, hopefully that will be something that every one of them will be talking about, and will have less challenges than particularly in the area of food production, because we have no business being poor. So here's me asking you again, as we have talked about in this program a number of times, particularly young people, mobilize to get into agribusiness. And I'm not talking about the hoe and cutlass agriculture. Please, read up. The whole thing you knew about agriculture is no more. Those days are gone. Trust me, those days are gone. There's hardly any state government you will go to today as a group and say you want to get into agriculture, and they will not at least listen to you. So you just read up. There's so much opportunities, and there's so many opportunities in the agribusiness space. And I'm talking about agribusiness and not just agriculture. So there's some kind of difference there. You may want to find out about those things. Let's get into this business. Nigeria has no business scavenging for food. The only problem we've had is having to bother about how we are going to store food so that we don't lose 40% of our harvests every year to post-harvest loss. But there is always a strategy. Let's find a way around it, because this land is lush. This land is green. All right, so many conversations to have with you this morning. We have at least 6 lined up. The first of them will be for us to talk about the wave of killings in central Nigeria, and we're in search of perpetrators. What's happening in Benue is one. What's happening in Plateau State is also very disturbing. Also, we'll be having a conversation about sickle cell awareness later on today. And you may also want to listen to us when we talk about the PRP therapy in regenerative medicine. What that is about, you'll find out later on. Excuse me. Focus on sodium reduction. What does sodium mean? Is it just salt? Oh, maybe it is, or maybe it's not. But you'll find out when we return, when we get into that conversation. Lifestyle today is about skincare, dangers of neglect. You have been neglecting taking good care of your skin, not just of yourself. You'll find out why all of that is and why we need to do something about that later on today. And the artist of the week should bring you some memories of those who know that series that ran on television. We'll find out more on that when we return. In the meantime, please do me a favor, grab your cup of cocoa, or if you prefer, cocoa, and we'll be right back to take on the conversation. Just stay with us. Now let's get into the first of our discussions this morning. I cannot tell you how depressing it has been for a number of people. And just this morning I saw on the front page of one of the papers today what they call flood inflation. That's about what's happening in Niger State. But the wave of killings in central Nigeria, particularly in Rivers and Benue states, they're definitely very, very concerning. 3 gentlemen join us this morning to have the conversation. Honorable Dixon Kigeru is a member representing Makurdi Guma Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. He joins us in our Abuja studio along with Yakubu Dati, who is of the Governing Council, Federal Polytechnic Ileoluji. He's former Plateau State Commissioner for Information. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We also have joining us virtually Dennis Amakri, who is former Assistant Director of the Department of State Services. He joins us virtually from the United States of America in New York. Thanks again, Mr. Macri, for joining us today. Let me begin with you, Mr. Macri. You've been following this whole conversation for a while, and from looking from a distance, and particularly seeing what's all the things that have been happening, what exactly could we have been missing that's made this seemingly intractable?
Looking from a distance, the protracted insurgency, and then, of course, the banditry situation in Nigeria has taken so long a time. And as it progresses, we are losing lives, we are losing resources, our food security is threatened. And we are just waking up to it, because right now I can see that even the president has...
yes, it's fine.
Clearer now.
I think the president has come in to even address it by traveling to Benue himself. So I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I hope that more can be done. More can be done in the situation we are now.
More of that conversation later on this morning. Let me ask Honorable Takiguru, the visit of the president to Benue State may have revealed a thing or two, but then there are those who are having questions. First of all, your own assessment of the president's intervention. We listened to what the Tortiv said. We also listened to what the governor said. But then the president seemed to, I don't know, what's your assessment of the whole, particularly those three speeches by the three gentlemen?
Thank you very much for having me this morning on this program. I was in Benue when the president visited. As you have rightly said, I represent Makurdi Guma Federal Constituency in Benue State, where we are in the epicenter of the crisis for the past 14 years. In the last 10 years, our people have been in IDPs because of these issues, this problem of Fulani herdsmen coming to our communities to attack our farmers, destroy their crops. And the former president visited Benue State the last administration. He promised everything, and at the end of the day, we are still in IDP camps. Nothing has happened. I want to appreciate the president for visiting Benue, but our people's expectations were really not met during the meeting. There were certain pronouncements that our people were expecting from the president. One of them is that we have a law, the anti-open grazing law in Benue State. We are a federation. We are a democratic country, and the state assemblies are supposed to make laws for their states. That law was enacted in the last administration. All we need for the president to do for us to ensure that that law is respected. The people of Benue State came together to enact that law. And if that is done, we will not have challenge. Benue is supposed to be the food basket of the nation. That's our comparative advantage. For the past 10 years, 19 out of 20 local governments have not been able to farm. There's palpable hunger in Benue State. What we expect the president to do is to protect our people by ensuring that that law is respected. Once you stop open grazing in Benue State, our problem will be solved. That is what we expected, our people expected from the president. Yes, he has directed security men to ensure that the men who perpetrated the last act, it is a continuous thing, should be fished out. We haven't heard anything from the security agencies whether one person or any person was arrested. It will continue like this until another incident takes place. and then we'll have another presidential visit, or what? Let the president implement, ensure that our laws in Benue State, as Nigerians, are respected.
I'm a
Let
little at
the
a loss. Honorable,
anti-open
just one
grazing law
second, if you
take
can hear
effect.
me. Honorable, I'm a little at a loss as to how it is the president, I mean, please help me, maybe I'm just speaking out of naivety. How is it that the president is the one that can ensure the enforcement of a law made by the state? Help us understand.
Thank you very much. We are a country where the governor is supposed to be the chief security officer. He does not control even the civil defense, not to talk of the police, the army, the DSS. How do you enforce a law without any instrument of coercion in your state?
Okay, well, let me come back to, for now, let me come to Mr. Dati. Well, the attack, fresh attacks by gunmen in two communities in Plateau State that left 19 people dead on Thursday is a very, very troubling one as well. And incidentally, the governor of Plateau State was with the president in Benue when he visited. What do you make of all of these? These things have been happening, particularly in central, Nigeria, that part of the country, for quite a while. It is indeed troubling. What are we missing, Mr. Dati?
Thank you very much. I think first and foremost, we need to move away and looking at what are the strategies on ground. It's important to commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for rising to the occasion by deploying strategies instead of sitting down and lamenting, because as we lament, the situations will still continue. The President has showed leadership by first and foremost signing into law the forest guard, because we have a lot of open spaces that are ungoverned spaces. And with the coming on board of the forest guard, I believe that we'll be able to cover those areas. And we have large forests, Sambisa, we have some in Ado, in Benue State, we have Dusen Zaki in Bashar, Plateau State, we have the Mahanga forest. So we have a lot of ungoverned spaces. And by the time we begin to look at security as our own responsibility, where number one, we have the forest guard that will take care of the ungoverned spaces, and then we begin to mobilize communities who will be the first point of resistance for any attack, because they are the first. And in most of these communities where these attacks happen, before there will be military or police rescue team, it takes hours because of bad roads and other socio-economic, infrastructural challenges we have. So it's important we begin to look forward and support the effort of government in ensuring that there is a lasting solution. Don't forget that these attacks have been going on for almost 2 decades now, surviving different administration under different parties. So we begin to look at what the president is doing. In other words, looking at restructuring the security infrastructure. And the security, first and foremost, the community must be mobilized, trained to be able to be the first point of defense, because they are the first attack. They know the community. And the forest guards has a component of employing those within the communities who understand. They will also be able to handle the area of intelligence gathering and also collaborating with security agents. But they will also be the first point of attack.
But Mr.
Secondly,
Dati,
is the issue of ensuring that the communities are mobilized.
If you can hear me, Mr. Dati,
that
yes.
they stand. I mean, if you look
my
at
apologies,
examples
Mr.
like...
Dati, just 1 second if you can hear me. And appreciate,
Yeah.
the efforts of the, you're praising the president and the forest guards and all those other initiatives. However, there are a good number of people who have alluded a significant part of all of these to politics, and that the political blocs in each of the states have one influence or the other. You may want to speak to that for now, because looking at what the president said, he practically said, look, gather the elders and let's have a conversation. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, is that in all of the first line of defense and all that you're talking about, you haven't made mention of the local government administrations. Now, over the years, from what I know, the local government administrations have a system of calling the community leaders, of the traditional rulers, of civil society organizations in the various localities, and even the policemen. They have their own security council, in each of the local governments. So I'm wondering, how come that is never or hardly ever in conversations when we talk about these things?
Well, first and foremost, we also have to look at the success stories of some of these community policing I'm talking about. For instance, these issues are countrywide, nationwide, but we saw how states like Ekiti, Ondo State, through the instrumentality of the Amotekun, stood up. And today, we don't hear of those attacks anymore because the communities have been moved to stand on their own and to protect, because we cannot continue to apply the same solution that has not worked for the past 2 decades. And that is why there must be support in the fresh initiative by President Bola Tinubu to ensure that the communities are mobilized as a community, and then they work. Also, the coming in of the forest guards are also very, very important. Don't forget that these forests transit from state to state, and these are where the terrorists have a safe haven. It's ungoverned. Nobody goes there. Nobody understands that.
All right.
But the process, we are beginning to have a new solution for the past 2 decades. Where I believe if we give that support, we will begin to see solutions like what we are seeing in Ondo State, where I served briefly, and I saw it in Ekiti State, where the community is collaborating. They are being trained for information gathering, sharing information with the security agencies, and everybody becomes part of the security architecture in that community. And we are seeing a success story, and that is why we believe that the president wants to replicate that success story across the country.
It really doesn't have. If you ask me, Mr. Dati, it really doesn't have to be about the president. Just as you said, okay. For instance, did the president? I don't know if the president played any role in Ekiti and in those states that you're talking about. I'm also aware that in Oyo State a similar thing had happened. Even in the Lagos, the president said that the same thing happened in Lagos, and he turned it into prosperity, into an opportunity, and a good number of places. Yeah. Let me ask Mr. Makri, just a second. Let me ask Mr. Makri, maybe there is something that we are missing here, because from what Mr. Dati has said, Mr. Makri, it would seem like it's more the job of the state governments to ensure that these things get done. And from the examples that Mr. Dati has said, it doesn't really have to be escalated to the level of the federal government if the states can be as proactive as they should be.
Thank you very much for that question, because you see, that is where we got it wrong. That's where we got it wrong. And a lot of people believe that when things like this happen, the governors will come out and say, oh, I'm the chief security officer, but I don't have the forces, I don't have soldiers or DSS. That is totally wrong. Because I used to work in a state, Lagos State, to be specific. Every Monday there is a security council meeting, which is made up of the army, the police, the DSS, and the chairman is the governor. And an SCDC, all of them are invited to this meeting. So you find out that, yes, the structure has not been structured in such a way, but even the governors right now, when you come to think about Benue State, the governor cannot say that he has not been talking with the DGSSS, or he has not been talking with the IG of police, because these people are at his disposal. There's a commissioner of police there. There's a state director of security there from the DSS. And all these people are briefing him constantly. Now, another one that you mentioned, Dayo, is about local government. You see, these people are collecting their money directly. And I don't know why people feel that, oh, when there is a banditry, then of course it is federal government. When there is any problem, we look at the government. But when it comes to collecting our money directly, they collect it and then they misuse it. We have to ask the We have to ask the governors, if you are the chief security officer of a state, what happens to the security votes that they collect every month, which runs into billions? You know, these are the salient points that we have to look at. Yes, the federal has a role to play, and they will play that role, but at least let us not shirk our responsibilities from the state up to the local government. And remember, crime is local. All the people they are killing is in a particular local government. You know, Yalwata is in a local government right there, and there is a local government chairman. All this is happening, and we can't even hear the local government chairman coming out to say anything. You know, in Benue State, we have the community volunteer guards. Where are they? We are now looking at forest guards, but the volunteer guards are there and they are not doing anything. If you bring the forest guards,
Second,
remember.
if you can hear me, there's something that Mr. Honorable Akigre spoke to the other time, and I'd like you to speak to it before I go back to him. He talked about, and this is something that the Tortiv also mentioned in his speech when the president visited, that, look, we can categorize that the people that are after us, that are attacking us, are Fulani herdsmen. He was very, very specific. And it would seem like even the governor has made that reference a number of times. There is also the conversations out there that some of these so-called rustlers, or whatever I want to call them, they come from outside of Benue into Benue State to foment this trouble. Of course, naturally, the question that no one will be asking is, how come they're not fomenting trouble in Nasarawa State, where they're coming from, and bringing their trouble to Benue State? But what do you make of that? Because over time, I think even since the days of President Yaradua, we've been hearing of Fulani herdsmen and all of those things. Is there such a thing really? Because I would say, and it is according to the law, anyone who performs any form of criminality is a criminal, pure and simple. Or isn't it that, am I being too simplistic, Mr. Macri?
You are not being too simplistic, and I think that is the way to go. I am very, very happy. In fact, talking to some of my former colleagues, I know that arrests has even been made right now, and that was the problem. Before, no arrests were made, no prosecution, but recently, in fact, after the president has visited, a lot of arrests have been made. What I will urge them to do is prosecute them. Let everybody know who are the people causing all this problem, because the kids' glove era, I think, should be over, and there should be synergy among all the intelligence agencies and the military police, to make sure that we finally bring this to an end. People are dying. So it is very, very important that we take the right steps.
Okay. Let me come back to you, Honorable Takiguru. So when the president visited, something that he was very, very explicit about, he proposed two things. Number one, he spoke about a ranch, some kind of ranching. I know that there is a national economic livestock plan that the federal government had in the Buhari days. Whether or not the president is aware of that, I don't know. Maybe some people, if perhaps even in Benue, can let the president know that there is something better, if there is, than ranching, which was seen as a problem at the time. The second thing that the president said was that a committee should be formed. And he was careful to talk about putting former governors of Benue State into a committee and involving certain former security officials, including the Tortiv and maybe one or two other traditional rulers. he may be drawing from what he established in Lagos, which they call the Governor's Advisory Council, so, to deal with whatever aspects of life in Lagos. But what do you make of that? Do you see these two, what do you make of these two initiatives that the president proposed?
Thank you very much for that question. But before I answer it, let me go back to the issue of the local government that my other colleague mentioned. The local government administration in Nigeria is actually dead because local government chairmen do not have their funding. The president, we must appreciate him for ensuring that the local government system has an autonomy. If a chairman of a local government has his funds fully released to him or directly sent to him, of course, he will be able to contain some of the challenges that come in terms of security. A local government chairman can have even his own vigilante in his community because these are the people who understand the environment, who know the environment. They can actually work with security agencies to fish out criminals or people who come from outside to attack. Unfortunately for us in Nigeria, governors have really refused to release funds or grant autonomies to local government or directly release monies to them. That is one of the biggest challenges we have. We are hopeful, though, that the president, a couple of months ago, gave directive that local governments should open an account with the CBN so that funds will be directly open to them. In my state of Benue, that decision has not been taken. Up to today, no local government in Benue has opened an account because the governor has refused to ensure that they do that. I'm hoping that that will happen. The president will enforce that decision, and the local governments will have their money.
Honorable, on the back of that, if I can quickly ask you a question.
Take care of challenges.
Just 1 second, Honorable. My sincere apologies, and please don't lose your line of thought. But on the back of what you just said now, that is the governor has not allowed, or as you said, refused, that the local government administrations should open their accounts. Do you think that if the local government administrations had their access to their own resources directly, the carnage we witnessed could have been avoided?
Definitely so. And everybody in this country know that. It was because when the local government system died, the youths in our rural communities moved to urban centers and then started committing all sorts of crimes. Even the ones that were left in our rural communities couldn't have access to anything. Let me give you an example. In my local government of Guma, the last two allocations that I've seen is about over 450 million. For 30 days, if the chairman of Guma could access 450 million in every 30 days, that's a huge economy for him to give fertilizers to his people, to ensure that security is guaranteed for those communities, because the youth will be willing to work with the local government chairman to do that. If they don't have these funds, what will they do? Sometimes the local government chairman gets just 5 million or 1 million sometimes. I'm aware of that because I speak with my local government chairman. I speak with some chairmen that are under my constituency. And I know this is as a fact. If these funds are released to local government chairmen, we won't have the challenges that we have now in terms of crime in our communities.
So now, are you saying, again, my apologies, sincere apologies, my sincere apologies. Please don't lose your train of thought. Should we then be holding the governor responsible for the carnage?
Oh, sure. The government has a lot of responsibility as far as the carnage is concerned. My colleague here mentioned the issue of Amotekun in Oyo and Ondo State. This is because the governors in those states were committed to ensuring that the security and lives of their people were very paramount. So they decided to do that, probably maybe using part of local government funds or coming together to work with the local government funds. I want to give you an example of in Benue State. The last administration set up livestock guards. This administration has not been able to activate livestock guards. Livestock guards are not funded now. They do not have vehicles. They had vehicles in the last administration. In this administration, no single vehicle has been bought for livestock guards in my local government, in 2 of my local government that are my constituencies that I know. Funding has not been given to them. I spoke to some of them today because these are my brothers in the same community that I know who were members of livestock guards. They've not been funded. No equipment have been given to them since this administration came 2 years ago. I want to also tell you something in my state as regards the issue of this insecurity. My governor has not even been able to come out with a strategy to solving this problem too. Now, the issue of the president calling on the governor to set up a committee. We have 4 living governors, past governors in Benue State. We have Akume is there, is the SGF today. We have Suswam, we have Otom. And then we have Atonkbara. Atonkbara, yes, he served under the military, but he's still a governor of Benue State. He's one of the governors in Benue State. The governor does not speak to these 4. Both of them experience these challenges. If the governor is not communicating with these people, how do you draw from their experience why they were there? It's so sad. That's what's happening in Benue State. And I must tell you that it's sad. We are happy that the president has called for this committee to be set up, and our former governors are involved, our traditional rulers are involved. If that happened and it's truly work, yes, they will share the experience with the governor. And then they will tell him, yes, Akume did this. It happened under Akume. He was able to take care of it. Susan tried his best. Otom came in and kept shouting every day about this issue. He set up a livestock guard. He bought vehicles for them. He equipped them with legal arms. I mean, legal arms within the ambit of the law to be able to take care of this. And we had some level of reprieve. This government has not bought one single vehicle. I haven't seen, not even a motorbike for these people. So tell me how you take care of this problem if you are able to do that. He has not even been able to call the problem by its name.
Okay. Let me ask you, Mr. Dati, let's begin to coast home gradually now because there's quite a list to run through on the program today. Now, the president, in his speech, Mr. Dati, also said something that, well, in a way, inferred something that you also said. He said to the governor directly, I wonder what you guys are talking about at NEC, the National, Economic Council. That also raises the question, if the examples that you gave are anything to go by, how come the Nigerian Governors Forum are not able to come together and have these conversations among themselves? The governor of Benue State was asking for state police and, repeating that request. It would seem like, the president kind of just waived it. The president acknowledged your governor and the efforts that he has been making. But then, from what you have also said, there are examples for the governor of Plateau State, the governor of Benue State, to draw from in Ekiti and these other states that you mentioned earlier. What would you propose should be done in order to avert this whole brouhaha?
Thank you very much. I think in addition to these issues solving the political aspect, there is also a very critical aspect of the non-kinetic approach. And a few days ago, we saw a good example in Senator Obasani of Kaduna State, where we all are aware that under the previous government, there were no-go areas, even for the governor. There were bombs going off, crisis attacks. But when he brought governance closer to the people that reflected justice, equity, created opportunity, and showed that government indeed does not look at areas through the lenses of ethnicity or religion. Today, Kaduna State has become a model. And that is why I believe that even as the president is appealing to the governors to consider these issues at their meeting, we also see bright lights from amongst the governors that are also going out and showing how governance should be. The peace that has returned to Kaduna State, especially southern Kaduna State, happened without a gunshot. And that is governance that reflects justice, fairness, equity. And that has won confidence to the people. And I must say at this point also that certain problems we have are also structural. And that is why we must not ignore to support the altruistic design by President Bola Tinubu to ensure the forest guards come on stream. In fact, it is more urgent than ever because from all these attacks, they come in from the forest. The forests are ungoverned. Our security forces are not trained to operate in the forest. But when you have the forest guards, you'll be able to have intelligence, you'll be able to have collaboration with the security agencies, you'll be able to also have collaborations with the community because a much higher percentage of these forest guards will come from the community. So you are now empowering the community as a first point of defense. I just read a piece where Professor Dala Diatu, who is a professor in charge of APIS, a security study, is also looking and putting together how to collaborate and ensure that the community, the forests, the security forces, and the government collaborate to operate under a unitary system that will promote peace and security in the states. And I must also conclude in this state by saying that I remember by 1999 when I was opportune to be a local government chairman, we were receiving our funds directly. Today, the local governments are not receiving their funds. As a local government chairman, even if you want to call community meeting, how much will it cost to provide transportation and hosts? You want to meet with traditional leaders, it costs money. You want to mobilize the community to even stand up and create the first resistance in case of attacks. All this costs money. The local government chairmen are just sitting ducks. And by the time we begin to empower, and I believe that informs why President Tinubu, who was governor in 1999, when I was privileged to be chairman, operated under a system where the funds and resources were going directly to the local governments. And therefore, like my colleague here is saying, empowering the local government chairman to be able to monitor, because they know their areas, and they can be held responsible. But a situation where a local government chairman, even the car he rides, is being ordered from the state, I mean, what can he do? The DPO will not even respect when he calls because he does not even have money to give fuel to the vehicle.
That's true.
So these are fundamental issues that I believe that we should rise up, and the governors will appeal to them. There is a standing security Supreme Court judgment allowing funds to go to local government. Please and please, we should allow these things to come into fruition so that we'll now begin to hold not just the governors, but the local government chairmen accountable. And by the time you are holding a local government chairman accountable, you are holding the councillor too accountable. And then if the local government chairman is not operating, the councillor can wake up. I remember in those periods, we had series of cases where even the councillors were coming up and serving impeachment notices on the local government chairman because they had the power to operate. And if you don't operate, you are held accountable. But you never hear of that these days.
Okay.
Because the position of the local government chairman is deplorable and unfortunate. So we must support the Supreme Court judgment and ensure it comes to fruition. We also must support the long-term solution in seeing the urgency of the forest guards so that we should begin to man those ungoverned spaces.
All right. It's actually very... I still don't know what to make of it when I hear ungoverned spaces, because they belong, the way I understand it, Nigeria it's divided in areas that every ungoverned space falls under a particular local government, and a councillor comes from that place. So I'm wondering how, but maybe a little too simplistic. Well, Mr. Makri, we're coasting home now. The president acknowledged the security operatives when he went to Benue. And he said specifically, let's get them out. Let's get out the criminals. But he also inferred political intervention as being critical to moving forward. Do you see that as something proactive, or is just one of those things a leader says?
Yes, thank you very much for that. It is very proactive, and I think that's the way to go, because, of course, the security agencies are doing their best and in that process, the political leadership is supposed to work with them. Because if they are doing their work and the political leadership is not is lackadaisical about the whole thing, then we're not going to get any results. Because now, when you think of it, the intelligence community is going to now. There's a lot of intelligence activities going on right now in Benue State. I cannot mention that because we're on air, but there are a lot of activities going on in the intelligence area. And now, when these intelligence are being disseminated to the consumers, who are the governors, even the local governor, local government chairman, I think they should use it properly. If they don't know how to use it, they should go back to the security agencies and talk with them. Now, I keep on hearing about forest guards on governed spaces. I think that's Ayo, this a word that we've bandied around for so long. It simply means that there is no government presence in some areas in the country. And then, of course, we can balkanize the police, because forest guards, if we are putting forest guards in place, we should start thinking about the implications. Because number one, we have to train them. Number two, we have to arm them. Because they cannot go and be fighting with cutlass or stick with armed bandits. But if you don't want to also think of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which is so many in Nigeria, then I think what we will do is to expand the police and then, of course, get state police. Because that one is a legal structure that is existing. The police was very, very tough in those days, I remember. Like when Adewusi was the Inspector General of Police. But it was later weakened because of military coups. Why can't we strengthen the police again? And allow the military to go and do external job, external territory protection, and allow internal security to the police. And the police itself cannot be doing federal police. Let's have state police, let's have federal police, but what we do is to draw the lines between federal crimes, state crimes, even local government crimes.
Sounds like we're just about to start and not really doing the things that we need to do yet. Well, we're going home now, and let me ask Honorable Takiger 3 things that you consider a must now that can help a sustainable solution to the carnage that happened in Benue. 3 things that must be done, in your opinion.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if you look at most of the local government that have been under sustained attack from this herdsmen, they border other states. Like my local government, like West West, Makurdi, Guma, Logo, Kwande, Katsina Ukum, both. The majority of them border Nasarawa State. We border Nasarawa State. And these people come from Nasarawa State to attack us. It's not a secret. The governor of Nasarawa has actually admitted that on TV as giving information or intelligence to his counterpart in Benue over the movement of these people. So I know something. In my local government, I have facilitated the building of 2 FOBs. FOBs are forward operation bases for the military to either deploy security agencies to deploy people. If the federal government, in the meantime, before the forest guard can deploy people, militaries, or, give funding to either the local government to build these bases on these borders, I think it will go a long way in helping to curb the entrance of other people into our state. Secondly, I spoke here about the issue of the anti-open grazing. It's not just the responsibility of the president to enforce it. The state government must be also willing to do its part. Security agencies are deployed to our states. They are available. The state governor must be willing to use the money available to him, the security votes available to him, to fund security agencies that are deployed to his states. In the case of Benue, I'm 100% sure this has not been the case, because I speak to security agencies that are deployed, at least to two of my local government. I know that funding has not been coming to them to be able to excise some of the challenges that they face in their areas of deployment. That is one of those two things can be done. Ensure that our law is respected in Benue State. That's between the president and the governor. The governor has a huge role to play in that. Let's build forward operation bases in those areas where these people come in, so that you deploy security around these areas. If that happens, I think we can have some reprieve. Like I said, my local government of Guma has been, Makurdi has been the epicenter of this crisis for the past 14 years. The last 10 years, we have not been able to go to farm. The biggest IDP in this country is located in Daudu. Daudu is just a few kilometers away from Yelwata, where this incident took place. Our people have not been able to farm for the past 10 years. We have been in IDPs. It's a big challenge for us. We are appealing to the president to step up, even to step up the issue of security in Benue State, to stay focused on the issue of security in Benue State. That is the only way that we will be able to go back to our farms and create an economy for ourselves. And our only economy is farming. You can't do that along cattle. We have always said this. And then there is something else that people mention about. The last president mentioned about living with our neighbors. I don't understand how herdsmen are our neighbors. We only find herdsmen in our villages, in our communities, sometimes destroying our crops. How are they our neighbors? We know our neighbors. In Benue State, we have the Idoma, we have the Agatu, we have Igede, we have other languages. These are our neighbors that we know. We have.
Well, let's hope.
And then we have. Wait, 1 minute. We have other communities that are with us in Makurdi that we know them. They were born there. Their parents were born there, and we know them. We relate with them. How can you meet somebody in your farm and then you call him your neighbor? It's a challenge that TV platform, news platform should be able to differentiate between your neighbor and your hostile attacker who comes into your community to attack.
Well, this is one of the reasons, Honorable, for the conversation we are having.
We know
now.
our neighbors.
Yeah. Mr. Dati, you have 30 seconds to close out because we are totally out of time. 3 things that you think must be done to end the carnage, particularly in Plateau State.
Well, I want to say that basically the 3 things. Number 1 is that there are already steps that have been taken by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and those steps should be supported by all parties involved. Number 1, the implementation of direct funding of local government is very key, because it now begins to spread down those responsibilities to the local government chairman and the councillors who stay in those communities. Number 2 also is to ensure that we begin to man those ungoverned spaces. Because if you talk about the movement of these people, one thing is clear, whether in the southwest, southeast, north central, northwest, these people use the forests, and those are the ungoverned spaces. And that is why we must look and support the forest guards to ensure that it comes quickly and urgently on board, so that whatever it takes, there should be a collaborative effort to ensure that it comes on stream. We know in other countries we have port guards, we have police that take care of the seas and all that. Right now, the model that worked 20 years is no longer working. We are having new threats, and that is why the issue of forest guards, community policing is also very key. Number 3 is that all the states, what we have in Ametuku, we have replications in all the states, but some of the states are failing due to ethnicity and other fault lines that operate in those states.
Okay.
But those states where the things are working are where they don't have issues of ethnicity, where they are accused of being biased.
Absolutely.
So that is why by the time the federal government comes in, it's going to help. And I'm also happy that we have the director of the DSS who is giving examples of communities standing up in Bauchi to stop attack. We have Christopher Musa, who is talking about going out of the box, to think out of the box, in talking about building walls across.
We can only hope, Mr.
Dati,
well, so many issues have been raised
has
here.
been able to coordinate the security infrastructure.
Yes, so many issues have been raised here.
There's a need to allow him to train, to coordinate the forest guard, so that we'll be able to have a free between the police, the forest
Mr.
guards,
Dati, sincerely, our time is up, and I just want to thank you for all of the expansion of this conversation that we have had this morning. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. I'm just hoping that this will end, because at the end of the day, the people that are dying, they are not just numbers. They are human beings. They are Nigerians. Yakubu Dati, Governing Council member of the Governing Council of the Federal Polytechnic Ile-Oluji, a former Plateau State Commissioner for Information, and as he has also revealed to us, a former local government chairman. Thank you so much for your time. Honorable Dixon Tikigero, member representing Makurdi Guma Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, in Benue State, in the House of Representatives. Thank you, as well as Mr. Dennis Amakri, who is a former Assistant Director of the Department of State Services. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. Truly appreciate it. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we take on another issue quickly. Do stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you've ever had to deal with anyone with sickle cell, who has had any bout of sickle cell, that you will understand that this next conversation is a very, very important one, particularly because there are always peculiarities that you may or may not be aware of. Even though everyone has malaria, medical practitioners will tell you that everyone has malaria parasites within their body, but the way different people react to malaria, or the way it manifests through them, is not the same for everyone. Perhaps the same thing for sickle cell. And that's why this morning we're having a conversation with a representative of the Sickle Cell Foundation in Nigeria that have a sickle cell awareness campaign going. Caleb Audu is the communications director. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe we should begin with that. Do you think there is significant understanding of what sickle cell is about, of how the people who have to live with it take it?
Yeah, I think the conversation around sickle cell is still prominent across the circle of a literate demographic. And when you look at the demographic of literacy, health literacy in Nigeria, you see those in the urban areas, but you see a large number of persons living in this condition. They live in our rural areas. And how effective is communication, health education, trickling down to this demographic? So there needs to be a bridge, that a pathway to communicating directly what sickle cell disorder is about, accurate communication, not biased or communications built around stereotypes, and segregation, and probably religious and cultural sentiments, because that's what has brought us to this point as a nation. While the West embraced science and looked at root causes to solve the problem, we still drove the agenda of Abikun, Ogbanje, and the funny narratives that were built over the years. People with sickle cell can live over 20. If they are 20, they just die. But that's not true. So you see, we need to drive constructive, effective, accurate, balanced, sensitization, education across the fora.
Do you think the various segments of our community, of our well, various communities and publics, the economic space, the finance space, the educational space, even the health space. Do you think they understand these peculiarities you're talking about?
Yeah, to an extent they do, but you see, I think empathy is still missing from our sense of an approach to health and social development issues in this country. For example, in Nigeria, respectfully, persons living with sickle cell disorder don't even have access to insurance, health insurance, and they tell you it's not profitable for them. So that's already a bias cut out already. So I think we're still looking at this
Well,
condition.
my apologies, does the
Yeah, please.
NHIS also discriminate?
You know, I'll try to be careful around this conversation, but you see, there's the policy in place, and there's also the implementation of policy in place. So idealism and reality is not really aligning per se. And you see that most of the hospitals that have access or patients have access to NHIS services are primary healthcare facilities, secondary healthcare facilities owned by the government. But how effective are primary healthcare facilities in providing comprehensive care for persons living with sickle cell disorder? Because the care cuts across a pyramid spectrum: prevention, comprehensive care, and cure. There's no primary healthcare facility or secondary healthcare facility in Nigeria that offers a bone marrow transplant program. It's expensive. And comprehensive care for persons with this condition cuts across leg ulcer treatment, transcranial Doppler scans to avoid stroke in children from the age of 2 to 18. That can get down with stroke, avascular necrosis, hip replacement surgeries required. These are extensive medical procedures these people need, down to routine medication, basic counseling, genetic counseling. You don't have professionals that are trained, empowered in the effective management of this condition. So we still need to do a lot as a collective to change and shift the narrative by carrying on an integrated approach, embracing this wholesomely from our grassroots, empower people. So what you have in Guma local government as standard of care should be what you have in Lagos as standard of care as well. So if we can take on this approach, I think would be, striding in the right direction.
Can we start from the home? Does the home understand? Yes. Do they? Sometimes even the homes themselves are very scared of the entire thing. So is this something that we can begin from home?
Oh yes, basically the home is the first and primary place for reinforcement, education. We grew up as children and we understood the construct of charity begins at home. And then we understood the concept of one child is a community's child, and so the father and mother, they take responsibility for passing across knowledge and passing across, relevant information that shaped our concept of, what we know as, right from wrong. And so from the home, and then caregivers as well. Persons living with this condition have caregivers. Not seeing persons with this condition as burden, but seeing them from a place of empathy, because many people still have a very flawed perspective. Why do parents know that they have the S genotype and then they still marry one another? But we are not having the right conversation. It's not fair, because in Nigeria we still have dilapidated laboratory infrastructure. You go there and get wrong genotype results. And that's what's causing the high incidence of this condition. So you see that this is causing a lot of, it's a lot back and forth. So from the home front, I think parents should inform their children to know better, and then parents should also, reinforce care and support for those already living with this condition, because our patient, the suicide rate amongst persons living with this condition right now is astronomically high because of lack of care, support, reinforcement. Your father can lose a job, mother can lose her job, because if one child has sickle cell, the entire family has sickle cell disorder. It's a burden that it's heavy to carry. So I think love, support, reinforcement, passing across accurate information to your next generation, so that as they are properly informed, they can make informed decisions as well.
I think there is really a need to loud it, as you said earlier.
No, honestly.
So what's the plan?
So the plan is we're taking a very grassroots approach, in educating the nation. And one way is that you look at Nigeria, our demographic, you see that 70% of our current population demographic are between the ages of 30 and below. And that's a strong youth demographic representation. And the young people are within the reproductive age, bracket where they are about to, come together, give birth to kids. So they are the ones that, we need to focus on to shift the conversation of reducing in Nigeria, 150,000 babies over are born every year with the condition. And before they turn 5, over 100,000 die from complications that can be avoided. So these are Nigeria. This is a medical health emergency. In Nigeria, for example, we have sickle cell is amongst the top 8 causes of child mortality in this country. It's among the top 10 non-communicable diseases in this country. We export sickle cell from Nigeria, as a matter of fact. We have the highest burden. So our sensitization projects now, we started our campus project, sensitization project, where we go across campuses, sensitizing, educating, and then starting advocacy groups on campuses for step down and sustainability, so that information is passed across from one set to another set, from one level to another level after matriculation. Another exercise that should happen should be an orientation around sickle cell disorder. And then we started our orientation program, a sensitization program as well, across NYSC camps in the country. Our target is to reach 774 local governments in Nigeria. And you can bear witness that across all the local governments in this country, you have, viable representation of youth corps members. And then we're also driving to start a CDS group for sickle cell disorder. So from January till May this year, Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria will be able to carry out this project across all the 6 states in the Southwest geopolitical zone. And then we're left with 5 more states to go. And in 2 years, we're looking at covering Nigeria. And we're not just sensitizing as one off approach. As we sensitize, we train youth corps members that will carry on this project and then trickle down to grassroots primary health care facilities. We work with medical doctors that are youth corps members to train doctors and nurses at grassroots level after being trained by our own professionals on how to effectively manage this condition. So you work with people across the local groups in their local languages, work with opinion leaders to shape and shift culture. Across religious institutions as well, we have the HFI project, where we connect and work with religious. In Nigeria, people believe they are pastors, then they are doctors. People believe they are imams, then they are doctors. So if we inform these people, teach these people, they hold influence and wield enough power to prevail on people under their care, to actually make informed decisions that will help us reduce the burden. So and then we're also coming up with a film. We've shot a film because, of course, we are in the media age. Social media is the 8th continent of the world. You have young people in that space as well. So we have a new film coming up on the 28th of this month. It's called Red Oil. And it tells the story of the psychosocial damage that sickle cell disorder causes amongst different strata of society. And it's a powerful tool that will help us drive advocacy as well.
It's a good one. How about the workplace?
Yeah, the workplace, I think there needs to be a shift. There's still massive, segregation and stigmatization for persons living with this condition. In the West, in the UK, for example, sickle cell is not a big deal anymore. Because I can have sickle cell disorder, and then there are a lot of DIY, do-it-yourself tips for persons living with this condition, even at workplaces. They give them concessions. They give them breaks. They are considerate, and they accommodate what we call weakness. And they put structures in place to provide care for them, as much as reducing air-conditioned temperature. Because once they're exposed to cold in the workplace, it can trigger crisis. Transportation services, they give them buses, to see that transportation back and forth reduces any form of stress factor that can induce crisis as well. And then they can go to hospitals and by themselves, they can, do blood transfusion. Because shortage of blood happens a lot for persons living in this condition. You just go to the hospital and then you just plug and transfuse yourself. While transfusing, you're working on your laptop, and then you're not in a hurry to go to work per se, because your workplace have structure and allowance to accommodate some of this thing. But in Nigeria here, a boss will tell you, I cannot hire someone that has sickle cell disorder because I don't want to carry the liability of weakness. If anything happens, what am I supposed to say? We put profit over empathy. And it doesn't speak well of us as as a nation, because we need to take responsibility for our own. So at the place of work, people living in this condition are super intelligent and brilliant. I have a big friend, a big dear friend of mine. She's called Mrs. Aino. She's 75 years old, and she has 71 year old. She has sickle cell disorder. She worked in the bank for 25 years. Her eldest son is 41-year-old, and she's striving. And she contributed her quota into, our economic development generally. They have a lot to give. They have a lot to deliver. But if we don't give them the opportunity and platform in the place of work, we won't even see this thing come to the fore.
So what's the date for this awareness campaign?
Oh, yeah. So we have a walk coming up on the 28th of this month. And our muster point is at Ikeja Local Government Secretariat. So we're taking off from there. We're walking, we're sensitizing. A blood drive would also be going on simultaneously because our people need blood. They need blood to live. So for every good, well-meaning Nigerian in Lagos State and environs that want to join us to increase the tempo and the volume on sickle cell disorder, to get relevant bodies, international community, to put this as front burner of conversations, I think it's an opportunity and avenue to join us as well.
Okay, we have to thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, the date again and the time?
28th of June, 2025. That's next week, Saturday.
Okay.
And the time for convergence is 9 a.m. And the venue is at Ikeja Local Government Secretariat.
Are there some people, who are the people that can come, who are the people that cannot?
Everyone can come.
Okay.
Everyone can come.
Okay. Yeah. Irrespective of my age?
Oh, definitely. The more, the merrier.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir.
Caleb Audu is Communications Director, Sickle Cell Foundation of Nigeria, talking to us about sickle cell awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
When we return, we have another conversation, maybe related. Just stay with us. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So many questions to ask about sodium, and that's what we want to talk about this morning. Sodium reduction, what is it all about? What's there are those who believe that it's, well, of course, on the one hand, we know that sodium is essential for us as human beings, that it's an essential mineral that helps maintain fluid balance, supports nerve function, and the rest of it. But the concern this morning is about sodium reduction. Why? Well, joining us this morning is Dr. Davis Omotola, who is a nutrition consultant. He joins us from our studio in Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Omotola.
Good morning. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah. Sodium reduction. Why is it a major public health issue in Nigeria?
Yes, it is. It is a public health issue, given the fact that a sizable number of Nigerians are down with hypertension. It's a major cause of death, non-communicable death, and we have a huge burden of strokes and hypertension in our population. So it's a major concern for the country, it's a major concern for individuals and particularly communities. And government has taken it upon itself to be able to intervene, as well as in line with WHO recommendation and call on countries to be able to look into it, because sodium, which is a major component of our salt, is a major risk for hypertension.
Okay, but
Over.
Yeah, but what are the major causes of this excess intake of sodium?
Well, WHO recommends that individuals, adults, should not take more than a teaspoon of salt in a day, and which translates to about 5 grams of sodium chloride or salt, or about 2 grams of sodium per day for an adult. And given the fact that many of us consume far above that level, then WHO called that most countries globally should, between 2013 and 2000, should reduce the level of salt, population salt consumption, to less by about 30% of the level in 2003.
Okay, so the question then is how? How do we consciously or unconsciously, directly or indirectly, take on so much excess, maybe without even knowing it?
Yeah. The beauty of it is that salt consumption is a learned thing. We all got into the world to develop our taste for different things. Salt happens to be one of such things that we develop taste for. And so it's a learned thing, and then we can unlearn it when we now realize that it is injurious to our health, and then we can consciously reduce it. And the government is also putting in place strategies to also help us to be able to reduce our salt intake. Part of the strategy which the WHO had recommended is regular surveillance to be able to monitor the consumption, the uses and the sources, as well as the impact.
Sorry, Dr. Mota. My apologies, Dr. Mota. The question I'm trying to imagine how the viewer right now is taking excess sodium without knowing it. Do we take them in our foods at home? Do we take them?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe we even take sodium without knowing that we are taking excess.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I think and I understand your question. Your question is, do we take sodium? Yes. Sodium is part of what we call salt. Salt in chemical formulation is called sodium chloride. So that is how we take sodium. And then there are other forms of, that's one major source. That's the one that we're trying to be able to reduce. But sodium, like you said in your intro, is also available in most foods. It's contained in many foods because of its value, physiological value. It's required to be able to maintain nutrient balance, electrolyte balance. It's also required for transmission of impulses and the rest of that. So, but because it's a major component of salt, and that is the one that we deliberately add, if we have limited ourselves to the one that naturally occurs in most of our food, there's hardly any living food substance or living substance that does not contain substance. I mean, does not contain sodium. So that's the one that we're trying to control. We are trying to control the one that we are intentionally add to the natural food that we take.
So
most of us, and when you take a high level of sodium or salt, you definitely know that you are taking salt. And when you know you are taking salt higher than what you normally say, you say, oh, this food is salty because it contains more salt than is required. Okay. And that's what we are talking about.
Okay, good. So how is this connected to or linked to health conditions like, hypertension and stroke in particular?
Yes, thank you. Studies have shown that the consumption of, the level of consumption of salt or sodium, let me put the word sodium, is linked to a risk factor to having high blood pressure, which we refer to as hypertension. And the higher the blood pressure, the higher is the risk of coming down with stroke and coming down with other non-communicable diseases, cardiovascular diseases, including stroke. That's the link.
Oh, okay. So is there a kind of regulation? Is there a role for bodies like NAFDAC to play in this effort?
Yes, thank you very much. I think this is where government has come in. Government has recently promulgated, developed a guideline to guide the total array of possible ways to be able to control it through surveillance, through our food consumption. We recognize that most of us are now living an urban lifestyle, and the urban lifestyle predisposes us to eating outside from the home. And then most of the processed foods, a couple of them contain higher than normal or higher than required level of salt to be able to meet public health concern or public health for the health of the people. So government has now set up that through regulatory means to be able to control the level of sodium or salt in some of these processed foods because they are found to be one of the culprits in which Nigerians taking higher level of sodium in their diets. And so NAFDAC has a major role in trying to be able to regulate what is processed and the level of sodium that is contained in these processed foods and meals. So NAFDAC definitely has a role.
Okay.
Standard Organization also have a role. And apart from the guideline that the government has put in place.
Okay.
And the media too is part of the responsibility to be able to bring to the public knowledge, to create the awareness, and to be able to communicate in a manner that people can easily understand that they need to be conscious of what they consume because of its health implication.
So I know that you mentioned that this is an enforcement, and enforcement will probably go directly to food manufacturers. But is there a way to monitor what food manufacturers, by the food manufacturers, the monitoring system by the food manufacturers themselves? You're a nutrition consultant, so you would also understand that sometimes it's the food manufacturers themselves that need to take caution first.
Yes, that's why, thank you. That's why standards are provided for many foods. For foods that are manufactured legally, they have standards they must comply with. And those standards are prescribed. And targets have been set in terms of the content of those foods, of such foods and meals. So the standard organization is to be able to create the relevant standards which such foods must meet, and then there's NAFDAC also monitors what is contained in those things, whether they're in line with what the health recommend or what is good for the health of the people. So these standards have been set in terms of benchmarks have been set. Targets have been set when this benchmark must be met. So these are all contained in the guideline which government recently developed and made available to the public.
Is there a way to, forgive my naivety, I've forgotten totally my chemistry in secondary school, so you'll forgive me, Dr. Motala, but is there a way to reduce the sodium in sodium? I don't know if there's anything like that, the efficacy of it, such that the saltiness is reduced so that it's less harmful, even if someone mistakenly put a little too much in?
Yes, it is the quantity that you consume at a time that that we are referring to. So the quantity of sodium or the quantity of salt, invariably when you consume a large amount of salt, you are invariably consuming a large amount of sodium. So the emphasis is now to reduce the salt content, the quantity of salt in those food items per unit of them. And so that's what government is put in place, and then to encourage people to also be conscious of that fact, to be able to ensure that they reduce the level of salt consciously in what they take, both in terms of home and in public spaces. And government also put in place to be able to create what we refer to as an enabling environment for people to be aware. A part of the regulation that NAFDAC is working on is to be able to also create the awareness so that people will be able to read the label, what we refer to as the front of the pack label, to be able to tell you that this pack of food or what you are going to take contains this level of salt, and the permissible range is such that the purchaser or the client or whoever is buying the food will be able to know that, oh, this level of salt the level of salt contained in this particular is high and the level is low or permissible, so that you can easily read it. And then unlike the other labels that contains the nutrient contents, which sometimes appear in tiny lettering, but this one will be big enough to be able to consider the implication, and then people can easily read, which we refer to as the front of the pack labeling.
Okay.
And these are part of what the revision that NAFDAC is also working.
Well, perhaps to give context to the viewer so that there is understanding of what exactly we're dealing with, how critical are the numbers? What effect is this sodium overdose, if I can use that term? What's the effect on our numbers?
Okay. The number of Nigerians that are down with non-communicable diseases are rising. As at the last count, is about 34% of Nigerians have come down with non-communicable diseases that are related to salt intake. And what WHO has recommended, and what the ministry is also trying to do, is to try to bring down this number to less than 25%, to bring back down to less than 25%. And this target has been set as far back as 2013 globally, but Nigeria is just starting with this guideline.
Is there,
and the number is also increasing, and you will know, you will know until recently. There's hardly any time you look at the television set or listen to radio without people asking for donation to be able to have a kidney transplant, to be able to help them, because these are also related to the issue we are talking about.
So is it something that's peculiar to young people, or is just all across board?
It's all across board. Before now, you hardly find... hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. Before now, you hardly find people under 18, 20 coming down with hypertension. But now, it is all over. You even find children coming down with hypertension, and it's not unconnected with the lifestyle and the food they take. People always believe that when you are 40 and above, yes, it is common to find people who are hypertensive at that age. But now it has come down because of lifestyle and the kind of things that we consume.
We'll definitely have other conversations with you on this matter, Dr. Omotola, because 18-year-olds coming down with hypertension, so many people will cringe in their graves to imagine the possibility. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Davis Omotola is a nutrition consultant, joins us from our studio in Abuja to talk about the need for us to focus on sodium reduction. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Okay. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll have another conversation. I hope you will find us interesting. Just stay with us. Thank you again for staying with us. I've had conversations around blood for a while, and I recently learned, only last year, that your blood, yes, that drop that comes out of you when you get a wound or anything, has parts. For the life of me, I would just have said, look, it's just blood, it's red. But then I've been told that it has at least 5 parts. Well, one of them I have seen in our conversation, next conversation, about platelet-rich plasma therapy in regenerative medicine. I have no idea what that means, but hey, I have a fair idea. When you hear platelet, you may not know, but I'm telling you now, as the professional, that is from your blood. But sorry, you can't extract it yourself. And then you hear regenerative medicine. You're wondering what all of that means? Well, 3 people are here with us this morning to talk about regenerative medicine. Mr. Morakinyo Oguntoyinbo is with us this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
And we also have Dr. Amadine Osayomore, co-medical director, as well as Dr. Rory Williams. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Now, let me begin with you. What are we talking about here?
We are just talking about regenerative medicine. That is something that just came out about 5 years ago, and we brought this in our country. I have a team of doctors here, Dr. William, Dr. Amadi, and one of our doctors is not able to be here, but we understand Dr. Oladmeji.
They will be joining us later. They will be able to talk and explain to our public about what.
What's the objective?
The objective is just to, revitalize the blood and make them more younger. But they will be able to explain better when the question is to
Okay,
yes.
let me ask you then, Dr. Osamore. Let's start with that platelet part. I hope I didn't talk out of point.
No, I think you're pretty spot on. Essentially, you're right. The body has everything that is simple, but kind of complex. It has parts, and different parts do different things. When you combine the ability of the body to heal and regenerate means to bring something back to where it was before, regen. So the idea is to try and take constituents and apply to specific areas that are deficient or faulty and get them back to, we cannot always get you back to 100% in anything in this world. It's a fallen world. But we can get you back to at least better performance wherever you were in now, where you are now to where you were before. So that's kind of a baseline idea.
And but then you also talk about the therapy part of it, Dr. Williams. Platelet-rich plasma therapy. All the therapy so many people watching you right now knew was just to massage and all those other little things. What are we talking about here?
Well, the idea is to concentrate your healing factor. We're trying to re-heal you. Before we give you medicines, when medicine doesn't work, then eventually, sooner or later, you might require maybe surgical intervention. Okay. So this idea now comes to avoid the extremities of surgery and rejuvenate the tissues to reclaim some of the performance. And so you take the healing factors and concentrate the healing factors in the certain area that needs treatment. So we could use your natural body's abilities, concentrate it, and now enhance the healing.
So if for this particular conversation, exactly what would you say that we should be focusing on? I see that the target conversation this morning is joint pain and ED.
Yes. So for erectile dysfunction, you have, as we went through, you take medicines. After a while, the medicine does not work because you're aging and the tissues are going down, so the response is going down. So now the next idea is how can we get you to respond to the medication or does not require medication. So by revitalizing the tissue of your body, we get a response and using a natural process, just enhancing a natural process to get there.
Okay. Dr. Osayomore, the kneecap part, is this whole regenerative medicine thing for those who are aging?
I think well, these days, I would say yes, and a bit more. The population we're all adjusting our diet, so we're getting older quicker, like your past guest just talked about. So, but primarily, it's for anybody who is not performing at their best. I was just telling my colleague about an 86-year-old I saw some time ago who is more spry than many 50-year-olds. So that person might not necessarily, you know what I mean? So it's age, yes, because more of the older people need, they have problem with ED, have people who need knee joints and stuff like that. But you could be surprised where you find where you can need the services. Yeah.
And in terms of when you ask about age, you know, one of the earlier fields that started regenerative medicines were the young athletes that had injuries. Supposedly a 25-year-old basketball player or football player, he has an injury and they do surgery. Many times when they do the surgery, they lose the athleticism. So they're trying to find a method of not having surgery, because surgery, sometimes you have to destroy good parts before you can get to treat the problematic area. So this therapy was done in early 2000s. Actually, there's a famous basketball player named Kobe Bryant was a very big advocate of this therapy. And so because he wants to avoid surgery, because the implication at that time, surgery sometimes rob these young people of athleticism. So this was where it was still very much in an experimental stage at that point. So at this point now, he was able to prolong his career. He had a 20-year career, which is very good for a basketball player. And it avoided surgery, so he maintained his athleticism. And now we find what we are now doing now is that we are finding other organs to see. So like erectile dysfunction, you know, unfortunately, once you have any surgery at that area with erectile dysfunction, it will never get, many times, it will never get back to the natural process. You'll always be required of, at that point, an implant to function. So this process, when you're able to revitalize the tissue, you're able to do a very, at times, surgery can be very traumatic, so avoid. And then there's also a healing aspect after surgery, that many times you do a surgery, you can't just get up the next day and go. You have to go through weeks of rehabilitation before you get. So, for instance, the knee. When you go and you do knee surgery, the downtime for the knee surgery is 6 months to a year, meaning you do the surgery, you at least have to stay off the knee for 4 to 6 weeks. Then you start to go strong physical therapy before getting there, before being functional. And even at that point, you go through a lot of pain, a lot of rehabilitation to get to a point where it's functional but not quite close to where you could get to. This method avoid going through the surgical process. I'll also give you another, now that I'm on the knee, medicines. A lot of times if you have knee pain, we take paracetamol, we take ibuprofen. Now the person is aging, they continue to take ibuprofen. And for instance, ibuprofen, if you take it too much, it's very good medicine. But if you take the medicine too much, it affects kidney. So you take a medicine short times, very good, but people have arthritis. Every day, every step, it's painful. So the idea now is that if you are able to treat the knee without requiring as much medicine, which eventually over time will have its own side effect, as well as your aging body, aging organ, it has a better outcome to let you live longer. And so that's the approach that we go from. First, it used to be medicine, stronger medicine, and then surgery. Now what we're getting to now is that we do medicine, obviously, and then if the medicines are not as effective, then you could now try to rehabilitate the tissue. So if we were young, we start out at 100%. And as lives go on, we start to get down, so you get to 20%. If we can get you back to 40, 50%, that would definitely buy you a lot more pain-free years. So no problem walking after.
Okay, let me come to you, Dr. Saramare. Is this only about surgery? Is this whole therapy is subject to, is this a condition after surgery or an alternative to surgery?
Well, we'll prefer, nobody wants to be cut with a knife if you can avoid it. That's just, whether it's being
Except
done.
it's in the kitchen.
I mean, it was in the kitchen. So I would say it's meant to not help as much as possible keep you from the surgeon's knife as long as possible. Like Dr. Williams was saying, if I can get your knee back, if your all your cartilage is almost gone, everything is compromised, and we can start to give you this therapy and see if we can get some things back in order, then you don't need to go under the surgeon's knife. If you're dealing with stuff like that, I would just say the important thing is The therapy, as much as possible, delays or potentially keeps you from going under the surgeon's knife. Because if you are regenerating something, then you don't need to go start cutting things about. The surgeon will come and cut. We did have to do that.
Okay. So someone, told us earlier about the fact that even 18-year-olds or even younger are now having hypertension, high blood pressure. For the life of me, my dad would cringe in his grave at that possibility. Is this also something, does that also relate to young people?
Yes, exactly. And one of the remember, sport medicine and orthopedics that works on the bone and tendons were one of the earlier people to actually use it prior to surgery or even during after surgery or during surgery. They will implement some of these processes to enhance the healing process. The starting out of this whole regenerative medicine was actually performed by surgeons and doctors that were having issues after they do a surgery, the wound wasn't healing. And so they need to find a way out to get the wound to heal. And so they were one of the first implementers in the early 2000s with this process. And now it's growing where we're trying to find other areas where it can help.
All right, well, you can't but have a thing or two to say, Mr. Oguntoyinbo, to all of these things. What is the interview? The first thing perhaps is awareness of the need by the people, right?
Yes. So we just want people to be aware, and they can always check us out on our website.
What's the website?
wprimemedical.com, and our office at 106 Ogunusi Road, Ojodu, Isheri, Ikeja, Lagos. And they can always reach out. But you check our website, you see all our information there, and you see all what we do, erectile discussion, all those kind of things. And if you need help, you can always reach out, and we'll see how to help you. Our phone number is also there.
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning, Dr. Moraki Oguntoyinbo. Of course, that's the website you're seeing on your screen right now, and the website is primemedical.com, right?
Yes.
Primemedical.com. Just go there now, you'll be able to find
also
some
do
information.
Infertility also. But the expert, doctor, one of our doctors we are talking to is going to join the team very soon, which Dr. Oladimeji, but we are talking to him for those who have problem in infertility for female, even couples. And we also do that.
Absolutely.
But hopefully, maybe in our next visit, Dr. Oladimeji will be here to also explain better on that.
Again, the website is wprimemedical.com. That's the website right there you can go to for all that you need. Moraki Oguntoyinbo, Executive Director, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Amadine Osayomore, Medical Director, as well as Dr. Rory Williams, also Co-Medical Director at W Prime Medical. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
So we take a break, and when we return, there's another conversation coming up right up. Thank you again for being with us. Let's talk about the Hotel Managers Conference Africa, HMC Africa. It started in 2016 and has grown to become Africa's leading knowledge-sharing, professional development, and networking platform for hospitality executives. Let's have conversations with three people joining us this morning to discuss this. Mrs. Kende Daniel is Managing Director, COTS Catering Nigeria Limited. Thank you for your time today.
Good morning.
They say ladies first, so you go first. And then, of course, Ms. Benedicta Oga is CEO, Kavoda Hospitality in Saha, Africa. She's also an HMC mentor. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And the convener of Hotel Managers Conference, Olugbenga Sunday, is here with us as well. You are a man, so you have to come last. Let's start with you. Now, since you started this in 2016, what specific gaps in Nigeria's hospitality were you trying to fill?
Thank you so much, and good morning.
Morning.
Firstly, it's knowledge gap. Knowledge gap.
Knowledge of what in particular?
Thank
I
you.
know what a hotel is for, right?
Specific gaps, I will start by saying knowledge gap. Knowledge gap is about skills. It's about what you need to know to be hospitality practitioners. We have a whole lot of practitioners today that we can't even categorize as professionals. And with the level of investments and the work we do, you just have to be a professional. You have to be skillful. You have to have the right knowledge to be able to manage or work in any department in hospitality sector across. So we are filling the knowledge gap with this project, and we are increasing the network. Because it's an ecosystem. We have vendors, we have solution providers. Even within ourselves, we don't know ourselves, and this has been helping. Now we can be bold to say, I know general managers in Kano State, and I'm actually working in Akwa Ibom State. These are the exciting gap Hotel Managers Conference Africa has been filling. You can imagine the excitement of discovering, having a reunion every year. Those you've worked with like 20 years ago, you just found them in the conference. And those you don't even know before, now we know ourselves. The networking is there, and we are connecting the dots because we have other sectors that are playing big in hospitality, the IT, the equipment, mention it, the HR, and those are the gaps we are filling.
All right. Mrs. Daniel, from your experience in food services, how would you describe the quality and consistency of hospitality offerings in Nigeria today?
Good morning again. Thank you for welcoming us. Now, in the past 10 years, I would say things have really improved. When you look at the top hotels, branded hotels coming in, and they're coming in with standards. But one of the major issues that we see here is when you look at the homegrown, the small catering companies, the small hotels, there's a consistency issue. And
why do you think that is?
Now, why is there a consistency issue? Part of it, training, as my colleague has said, and the reason why we're having this conference is to upskill yourself. You look at the way things are grown and selected, graded. Those sort of things work towards consistency. Using recipes to work with, understanding a recipe, and so on and so forth. So you find that even the suppliers, or would I say the farmers, growing these things, they just grow. What consistency are you looking at? There are times that you can look at a tomato, or somebody is growing tomatoes. What kind of tomatoes? In fact, a good example is habanero peppers. There are different grades that are spicy. And so sometimes when you look at it, the time of the year, all of the peppers are so hot. Why are they so hot? Sometimes they grow them and they mix them and they sell them. Really, what you should do is you should grade them. This type of pepper is what I'm growing.
It's extra mild.
Exactly.
It's extra hot. It's mild.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these are the sort of things that will help us.
They also come up at this conference. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, Ms. Oga, unfortunately for you, you are a mentor. I say unfortunately because I was at a hotel Thursday into Friday, and I just saw a rat in my hostel.
Oh, God.
So, I'm sorry. I just had to bring that up. But as a mentor, what skills or attitudes do you think are missing among young professionals?
Okay, for young professionals, from what I've seen, I see that they come in with a lot of enthusiasm. But there's a lot that is missing that they need. They don't have the right service culture. the humility, the resilience that's required for the job. So a lot of emotional intelligence is required for hospitality to be able to carry out the job. And I think that this is a gap, or these are gaps that mentorship and training, can cover for. So mostly people just need the right training. They don't have the attention to detail, the consistency, the discipline that is required for hospitality.
Well, because we don't have so much time, let me just jump straight into what this conference is going to be about, Mr. Sunday. Give us the details, the venue, date, time, and all of that.
Okay, we are going for the 7th edition of Hotel Managers Conference Africa.
Okay.
It's going to be taking place at Lagos Continental, Victoria Island.
Pause. You started in 2016.
Yes.
And you had it.
We lost some years because of COVID.
Okay.
We lost some years because of COVID. June 28, 29, 2025.
Okay.
The
and that's
conference,
just next week?
Next weekend.
Okay.
Next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. At Lagos Continental, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria. We are considering synergizing for sustainable growth through global best practices. And that's our theme for this year. All is set for the conference next weekend.
So what are the likely takeaways? What are the objectives? What are the expected outcomes? And what are some of the activities that are going to go into those 2 days?
For the 2 days, we have trainings, we have workshops, we have B2B, we have exhibitors bringing solutions.
As well?
We have guest speakers, we have keynote speakers, we have panel discussions, we have speed mentoring sessions, where we have networking within ourselves. It's a whole lot. Then we have an award night on Sunday from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay. Well, Mrs. Do you want to take us through some of the speakers?
Yes, we've confirmed a good number of speakers. Interestingly, the one we did last year, we recorded over 400 participants from 16 countries. And this time around again, we are set for the 7th edition. We have already confirmed. We have Kahala, and that's the group general manager of Continent Hotels Nigeria. We have Professor Wasiu Babalola. He's going to be hosting a panel. And he's the first professor of hotel management and tourism in Nigeria, Professor Wasiu Babalola. We have our keynote speaker, Dr. Belinda Nwosu, is with the Lagos Business School. We have Lydia Akunja from Moi University, Kenya. We have a good number of line-up speakers coming for this conference. We have Dr. Makepinda of GS Signatures coming. We have Rasa Ahmed is the district director, Nigeria, Radisson Hotel Group. We have big names coming for this conference, already confirmed.
Well, so everyone who wants to play big has to be there, right? Well, let me ask you, madam. So this year's conference focuses on global best practices, right? Yeah. So how, in your opinion, do you think food service providers like yours can raise the bar to meet global standards and excellence?
In not so many words, you need to follow, or you need to train. That's key. You need to educate yourself, and you need to work with the global standards. There are quite a number of them. There's the ISO, there's food safety systems. You can either have, there's a bigger one and there's a lower one. But you know something, if you don't understand these things, there is no way and there is no how that you can improve and feel that you can play in the global scene. So basically, I would say is train yourself, ask questions, and when you come to the conference, these are the kind of information that you go away with, and you meet different people and companies that can help you achieve that.
So, to you, Ms. Olga, thank you very much, Mrs. Daniel. To you, Ms. Olga, having observed HMC over the years, how would you rate its impact on the personal and professional development of hotel managers in particular?
Okay, I would say HMC is no longer just a conference. It's a movement. HMC has created a space where managers feel seen, heard, and a space where they're equipped. We've watched people gain clarity by being a part of the conference over the years. You know, they've gotten to a place where they've stepped up and they've owned their growth and, you know, the different roles that they maintain because of, you know, the community that HMC has provided. Yeah.
So, so you're saying that mentorship has a big role to play?
Definitely.
How big a role?
Oh, it's a huge role. You know, we find young people come into the space and, for example, people that look up to people like Madam Kende, and within that space, you're able to engage Madam Kende, you're able to maybe have her contact, have a conversation with her during the conference or after the conference. Within that conference, the names of the people he has mentioned, some of who are mentors as well, they're there. They're available for you to have conversations with. Whatever you're not clear about as far as your hospitality journey is concerned, they provide you the guidance that you need. You know, so we're not just having these conferences, we're training, we're mentoring, we're coaching. You know, we're speaking to people, we're understanding where they are and what they need to get to where they're trying to get to.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Sunday, just so someone else can pick on this, the dates and time. Is there a website for them?
Yeah, we have a website,
okay.
www.hotelmanagersconference.com. All details are there. It's a paid conference, and the fees are there, different categories. We have the combo package that include accommodations, airport pickup. Then we have the one that is just conferencing, your tea break, your lunch, your award night, and all that. Go to the website, we have all the details there.
Does it include accommodation?
Yes, we have a package for accommodation. We have two packages.
I just want to be sure because
yeah,
I mean, hey.
we have the first one. It does not include accommodation. The second package includes accommodation.
All right. Well, the details are on your screen. You are looking at the website right now, and it's showing you all of the details of the hotel management conference taking place at the Lagos Continental Hotel. Well, I can see that the international delegates are also listed. All the opportunities are there for you all. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
For being here this morning. Mr. Sunday, Olugbenga Sunday, is the convener Hotel Managers Conference. We appreciate your time today. We also thank you, Benedicta Oga, CEO, Kavoda Hospitality and Saha Africa. You also, well, I mean, sometimes happens.
Yes.
And HMC mentor, we thank you for your time, as well as Mrs. Kende Daniel, Managing Director, Cots Catering Nigeria Limited. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right. So next is about you. The next conversation is about you specifically, what you do now. We'll be right back. Thank you again for being with us this morning. For a few times, we have spoken about skincare on this program, and not as often as one would have liked, particularly because if you want to talk about skincare, you want to talk to professionals, those who know about it and can advise you as and when. That is why, and when I heard that skincare is now a global emergency, then I panicked. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. In fact, someone looked at my skin one day and said, hey, Ayo, your body needs moisturizing. I said, I put moisture. I said, what moisture? I said, water. But anyway, whether I'm doing right or wrong, let's ask this morning Dr. Aisha Akinkugbe, who is a consultant dermatologist and genitourinary physician. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
What other moisture do I need for my body other than water?
Water is not enough. Okay.
But at least it's a start.
It's a start.
Good.
But then you now need to trap it.
Trap?
Yes, because the water will dry up.
Oh.
So you now moisturize, and that will layer it. So then the water is
pause. So, okay.
Your skin
for
is
context.
dry.
No, I'm coming. For context, I agree with you. But for context, a whole load of people use cream without knowing why. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not really. People know they want to use cream. You'll see some people saying to us when they come to the clinic, I didn't put on cream. That's why my body is white. But I wanted you to see my skin.
But do you know why they don't use the cream? Because you just told me now that the whole idea of the cream is to trap the water in the body.
Yeah, to moisturize your skin.
Okay.
But you said you're putting water. So I'm telling you that, okay, as you put water, trap it by...
Trap the water in.
Yes, that increases the moisture content.
Okay.
And that's why you have different like lotions, then you have thicker ointments.
Okay.
The lotions are, more watery and easy to apply. And then it's light. Our weather is very hot. So a lot of people like something light. But that moisture, you could actually add a little bit of oil into the lotion, to help. And that's why you see when you have different grades, like for instance, people who have very dry skin, the types of creams and lotions that are available to them have extra components that help, to repair their skin.
Okay. Now, this whole danger thing, how do people abandon their skin? Does that happen?
Your skin is a mirror of who you are. It's the most important and vital organ. I can tell you that for free.
So the skin is an organ?
It is an organ.
Okay.
It's made up of the hair, the nails, and the mucous membranes. So that all encompasses the skin, and it is very important. Now, you said, how do people ignore? It's just like the same thing that will happen with your heart or with your kidney. The way they say protect your heart, protect your skin. Moisturize, drink a lot of fluids, eat a balanced, healthy diet, stay out of the sun. The sun, no matter what you say, causes damage to the skin. Photo damage, phototoxicity, then talk about, giving you exposure to skin cancer if you're also more prone and you do other things that don't protect your skin. So you should use sunscreen. Every day you're out, you're stepping out, into the environment. The environment itself, we're talking of climate change. So everything is just all mixed together, and that's why we're talking of global health, bridging the gap. Everything merges together. Climate is playing an important role because right now, with climate change, the sun, the ozone layer is depleted. You get lots of exposure to various toxic chemicals and, pollutants. That affects the skin. It makes it dry. Then depending on your working environment, you're working maybe like in an industry where there's a lot of heat, there's chemicals, exhaust fumes, everything. And then if you're not even doing any of that and you're just going outside these days, have you not seen that the sun is still up at 4 p.m.? Those days, the sun used to set. Now the sun sets between 6. I'm driving home around 5, 6, and I have to put my visor down. I have to put on my sunglasses. So that for me, I have noticed, and I've seen that, you know what? Things are changing.
Well, you would know that a good number of people believe that Nigeria were way more fortunate than others. Because you visit some other parts of the world, 8 p.m., the sun is still up.
Well, win some, lose some. Do you understand?
Okay.
Those climates are more temperate, so...
Now, to the dangers that we inflict on our skins inadvertently, you've told me mine, that I don't moisturize, and I gotta be honest, I'm just one of those very village men who don't use cream most of the time, except just to once I do with my hands, I tend to be good. Now I know that I need to do better. But what other dangers do we inflict on our skins inadvertently, consciously or unconsciously?
I think the first thing would be that you don't think your skin is important. Okay? The skin is very important, like I've already said. So if you think of it as important, you will also do right by it. You will also do the right thing. For instance, if you have a skin problem, the first thing you're going to do is not go, you won't see the specialist. And really, sometimes you actually don't need to initially. But you would go and do various practices that are not, how should I say it, that are just out there. For instance, exposure to what we call triple action creams. So you go to, because there is a lack of access to dermatologists, right? People don't know and they can't find us to a certain degree. So they would go to the chemist or to the pharmacist, or first of all, even within the family, and try and get something. And the most common thing that is out there is the triple action creams. Those triple action creams contain potent steroids. Those steroids are dangerous. So first of all, when you're abusing your skin, you're destroying it.
So when you say triple action creams, what are you talking about?
They contain a potent steroid.
Triple action.
So they call it triple action because it's acting, it's got a steroid, so it has an anti-inflammatory effect, it's got an antifungal component, and it's got an antibacterial component.
The fellow who bought it, are they aware of this?
No.
Oh dear.
So let's not get there. It's a fight that NAFDAC are trying to fight and trying to bring in all these things. But the most important thing is to the individuals out there. And it's being sold in the supermarkets. So I think, if we want to face this regulatory problem, we'll be here from now till eternity. We have had several discussions, webinars with the NAFDAC. They are fighting a big battle. But as far as we're concerned, what can we do? Just keep causing awareness and letting people know. Something that is a triple action. You have one problem, so why would you use a triple action? But okay, go on.
No, the reason I'm asking is, so the fellow going to the shop to get a cream would know, is it written on the product triple action?
Yes.
Oh.
It was written triple action.
Okay.
And there are various names, and some of them are called triple action. And you see, unfortunately, it's being sold in the supermarket. So you're going there, and then the sales assistant or someone else say, okay, well, and then how you ask a question. You're trying to, it's okay, no, this one will work. Use this, use that. So inadvertently, you have people prescribing or selling products that, first of all, are dangerous, shouldn't be sold like that. And the person that is giving you the advice on selling it is not trained, doesn't even know.
So you're advising now that when you go to the shop to get any cream for your skin, look out for you should avoid anyone that says triple action.
Well, you see, the person is going there to get a cream. Fine. There are different creams, just like you have lightening, brightening, whitening. Yeah. Those are all bleaching agents. They all bleach. Good? No, they're not. So that's another one. Then if you're now going because you have a small rash or something, you will still be sold the triple action products. So it's a multi-systemic problem, a hydra-headed problem that I think only education and awareness repeatedly can get us to where we're going. And I think that as dangerous and as Herculean a task as it is, we're getting somewhere if we just need to use the social media, sustained effort, consistently, diligently, partnering with the media to get the right message across. That's what the dermatologists want to do.
So what the message you are communicating to us today is what specifically?
Specifically, your skin is your wealth. It's your responsibility. Good skin, good health is good for you. You need to do the right thing by your skin. If you have a skin problem that has not gone away, you've either used a cream, you've seen a doctor, seen a pharmacist, it hasn't gone, ask them, please, where can I get access to a dermatologist? But if you're getting to 6 weeks and it hasn't gone away, it's getting worse, rather than go to the same place, we need to let you know that there is a specialist for this. The dermatologist is someone who is trained in the care, a medical doctor in looking after the skin, hair, nails, and mucous membranes. So go and look for them. We're all over the country. Yes, we agree that, we're not in the millions, of course, but we're there. We're in the local, the tertiary hospitals, federal government, state, And in all the states, but in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, yeah, that's where you have the concentrated areas. But in other areas, they are there.
Okay. So give us some do's and don'ts to take away. Something that someone can get up to. What time is it now? It's 11:26 a.m. Something that someone can get up now and say, I'm going to do this. I need to do this right now.
Okay.
For my skin.
I think the kind of products you use, you need to be a bit more, look into it. Don't just follow the trend. Skincare regimes are trending on social media. There are too many. You're using too many things. That's just the bottom line. And they're not using it in an informed manner. But most importantly, just moisturize. Shea butter, Vaseline, any of those things. Don't over sponge. Many people will not like that. I know my people will love to use, really scrub it out. Yes, and scrub all the stress and dirt of Lagos State or Nigeria out of you. But when you have sensitive skin, like our atopic dermatitis patients or other people who have some form of dermatitis, scrubbing is actually dangerous for your skin because you're removing, the natural things on the skin, the oils, and you're making it more exposed to getting dry. So we say just use a soft sponge. Use a mild soap. A lot of us like black soap. Black soap is a drying agent. When you have your bath with black soap, you see the difference. I do once in 2 weeks. Not on a daily basis. You see the effect. You use mild soap, Sindets. There are a lot of them. Not too fragrant for the people who have sensitive skin. But average person, just a toilet soap. It's fine. But now, when you finished having your bath, you're still a little bit wet. Don't towel dry yourself fully. Just go and start rubbing your lotion on. And you'll see that it will keep the skin. So if you do this regularly, and I tell people you can top up. So just like you drink water, when your skin is dehydrated, just have something light in your bag, a lotion, and just top up on the exposed areas as well, religiously. Then at night, your feet, for instance, a lot of people have dry feet. Have shea butter by your side. Put shea butter on your feet. You're in the air condition. Those things also dry up the skin as well. So you need to top up.
Drink water.
Yeah, well, drink water, and you can also moisturize your skin. Then you said tips. So sunscreen. So apart from sunscreen, we're talking about resources as well. Not everybody can afford sunscreen. So we're also trying to look at it, from the point of view that how can sunscreens be made more available? The pharmaceutical industries, the cosmetic industries, we need to invest in skin of color. So all of the sunscreens, they're being used. You find that people with skin of color complain it's too thick for us or it leaves a white cast. Gradually, they're improving things, but it could be much better so that we have sunscreen that we can use for us in the tropics as well, bearing in mind our climate and what we like. But it's not very cheap and affordable. But first of all, to protect yourself. So stay out of the sun during the intense hours of the day between 11 and 3. Now that's hard. There are some people who that's where they are. They're out there, they're hawking, they're, walking up and down.
I was going to ask you because there are some people whose jobs are that peculiar. Are there, my next guest, for instance, is in the movie industry. Are there peculiar treatment for the profession peculiar or career peculiar treatment for the skin?
Yes, because if you are out there in the sun, like for instance, a traffic warden and the people hawking, so a wide-brimmed hat, not a face cap. Face cap, this is the only place it's protecting. You have your ears, you have your shoulders, so it has to be a wide-brimmed hat that extends to the shoulders, right? We
need the state government to enforce
that. There are lots of things, for our albinos as well. Even the federal government has a lot of things going. So these are the things where we're talking of policy and things that matter to us. And we are very excited that right now the World Health Assembly has made skin health a global priority. So we have a long way to go. But we can only start by, first of all, even educating the people while we start to look for policies and how we can influence and get skin health to be a priority.
Quickly talk to us about that World Health Organization's declaration and what your association is doing about it.
Okay, so I think it was initially the resolution was put forward by, I think it was Ivory Coast, and then supported by Nigeria, Togo, Egypt, and one other country. And so right now it has been passed and skin health has become a global priority. This is important for us because one, all the things we're talking about, it now means it's at decision-making table. We haven't been there. It's been everything else, non-communicable diseases. But look at it. We have neglected tropical diseases being, we're having a resurgence of them. We also have common infections. We have monkeypox, we have scabies, we have leprosy, and so many other things. So the fact that it's been put as a global health priority means that, okay, now the policies can focus on that area, funding can come into that area, and we can advocate better, and we have a seat at the table.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else to say other than to wish you well. Sorry, you have a conference coming?
Yes, we're having our annual conference. It's coming up next week. It's
What's
our 19th.
The focus?
The focus is global health, bridging the gap.
Okay.
And so we're trying to look at task shifting. We're looking at AI, teledermatology, just looking at it with a total global perspective, what's going on, how we can, cross carpet, but more importantly, task sharing, looking at the problems, how we can upscale or downscale, depending on which way you look at it, so that, there's more skincare for Nigerians.
I'm wondering whether you think parents are as conscious as they need to be about the skin of their children.
You need to, because even right now we're having skin bleaching for children.
Oh, Jesus. Well, thank you so much for coming this morning. I don't say anymore. Maybe some other time we'll talk about that one.
Thank you very
much. Dr. Aisha Kinkugbe is a consultant dermatologist and genitourinary physician. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makinde.
Well, as I hinted you, our next guest is in the movie industry. Wait a minute. Who in particular we're talking about? You'll find out soon enough. Well, we'll come to that guy some other time in the music industry, but right now we are talking about someone in Nigeria's movie industry. He is a Nigerian filmmaker, he's a storyteller, he's a story editor, he is a theater artist, broadcaster, newspaper columnist, magazine editor, and university lecturer, all in one. Please welcome with me this morning, Chris Ehidero. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Some people will be wondering, wait. I've only heard the name. I have not seen him before.
I like to hide behind the camera.
I thought I was the only one until I had to show in front of the camera. So how have you been?
I have been very well, thank you. How have you been? It's been a minute.
Yeah, more than a minute. Many people will not remember, will remember Fuji House of Commotion.
Yes.
But they will not remember the name Chris Ehidero. We need to do something about that.
So I have always enjoyed just letting the work speak for itself. Okay. Which is, as a writer and as a director and as a producer, I am not front of screen. We sit back and let the celebrities and the stars do the actors and all of those do their thing. But, time requires that I do what I'm doing now in front of the camera for what's about to happen. Yes.
And what is it about to happen?
I hope
the world is not coming to an end.
No, none of that. I have been privileged in my career to have had a lot of firsts and to have done a lot of big projects in my writing and direct and producing career. Fuji House of Commotion, producing Nigeria's first feature animation film, Lady Bucket and the Motley Mobsters, producing 2 seasons of MTV Sugar and all of that. But I am making a big film now, which is the biggest risk I've taken thus far in my career, and I'm enjoying the ride. And all attention is on that now.
We'll come. I'm pretty sure we're still going to touch a little more on that later on. But you would have concerns about the movie industry, as some of us do. One of the major concerns for me, we'll talk about the other details, but one of the major concerns for me is the classification or a lack of it in our movies. People all over the world are excited about Nigerian films. Hardly do we have as good have we gotten as good in the classification of our movies as we ought to have, wouldn't you say?
I'd say that the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board is doing a pretty good job. Dr. Shaibu Hussein is now in charge of that. And yes, in the past, we've had occasion to question some of how the classification has been done and what should be watched by who and where and all of that. But I think we're coming to a place now that is more stable, that is more focused, and that can classify, as differently. The ultimate aim is not to censor, so to speak. It is to classify so that the viewers know exactly what the film they're about to see contains, and that's the job of a board like that. And I think it's. I mean, I am encouraged by what I've seen thus far from Dr. Shaibu Husseini and all the people working to make all of these things better. Yes.
But what gives you the most concern?
I am generally not very worried as a person. I suppose that recently the alleged withdrawal of the streaming giants from Nollywood is what's given a lot of people concern. I have often argued otherwise. I have said publicly that I think that it's a re-strategy. It's more of a rethinking of strategy than a withdrawal. I insist that if you are going to talk about African or black film traditions globally, there is no way Nollywood is going to miss out of that conversation. For all of its many alleged limitations, Nollywood is still the biggest conversations around black cinema globally, whether you like it or not. So for me, it's important that we retain that and understand what that means. And this is not to then say, therefore, that the world cannot do without Nollywood, but it's to say that the world is better off, with Nollywood in it.
Is it possible for the world to do without Nollywood?
No.
We couldn't do without Hollywood. We couldn't do without Bollywood.
Yeah,
they can't do without Nollywood.
For me, it's I don't have fears. I know that all of this will come to a good place where, and we must, really be appreciative of what the streaming giants brought to the industry in about 6 years. They did more for the industry in 6 years than many have done in the decades the industry has existed. Let's not say that the situation at hand then means that we dismiss the work that they did. They allowed for many of our producers to make productions at a certain level. They provided funding that allowed for, an attempt for us to show what we are exactly capable of. They allowed for infrastructure development in the sector. So a lot of that has had to do with what they brought. Now, whether it was enough, whether it should be all of it, is a different conversation. But we can admit that this was worthy and that I think there will be a continuum. I think that whatever strategy they come up with next, if we took it, and we also on our part must then ask ourselves, did we make the best use?
Is that our part that I want you to speak to? And I know that being a movie maker, you may not want to yab your people, but you have to. Because I have heard, and I think it was, is it Basket Mouth or Bovie that was, letting it out in public, that some, producers will get this funding and spend maybe 1/5 or less on the production. That would, if I were these streamers, I would re-strategize too, wouldn't you?
I think that when people speak on behalf of an industry, they need to be careful. I think that when you are a producer and you want to talk about the works of your colleagues, I think you should come from a place of care. And this is why. If you accuse anyone of anything without evidence, what you're saying is that you have done better, but there's also no proof of that. right? Anyone that said anything did not exactly show us his or our own budget and payments and plans and all of that. I think that if you said, for instance, someone gave someone $2 million to make a film, and then the person actually spent $400,000 to make the film and did whatever with $1,600,000, right? Then you look at the film and then you ask yourself, are you truly a producer if you thought that this was produced at 1/5 of the budget?
Are you telling me that this never happens?
I try to speak from a place of fact and evidence. If I do not have fact or evidence, opinions are free, facts are sacred. In my background in journalism, that's how I was trained. I can therefore not speak of that which I have no evidence.
You know that I'm a journalist too.
Of course I
can put you in trouble.
No, I think
with
that,
your
no, I think that,
responses.
because I think people say a lot about Nollywood without having real, concrete, evidence-based, that you can prove. And it's important for us to speak like this because, okay, so I'll go to conferences abroad and I'm speaking with this platform from Europe, or I'm speaking with this whatever from the US, and they're saying, oh, we hear, and I'm like, where did you hear that? This is not to say that those things are impossible.
Okay.
I am saying that if that is why you think the streaming platforms are re-strategizing, then you do not know the industry enough. At the end of the day, it's a business. The streaming platforms have got to ask themselves, these investments we are making in this industry, do we have enough subscribers from this industry, or from this country, or from this region? If we don't, do we have other outtakes that makes this investment reasonable? If we don't, do we get enough eyeballs and are we in enough conversations to make this investment worthy? Those are the questions. Those are bigger questions than whatever any producer did or did not do. And so I find those conversations limiting. Whether they are true or otherwise, I find them limiting. There are bigger conversations about the industry, about what we could be doing differently, about what we have done with the opportunities we have had, and otherwise.
And what are these bigger issues for you?
I think that the bigger issues, my biggest issue, my biggest challenge is our tendency to be monofocused at every time. I mean, you know this. At some point, if you wanted to distribute your film in Nollywood, you go to Alaba, and then Ibn Kwejole, Pound Road, in Aba. We know how those adverts ran in those days. And we moved from that to a system where if Africa Magic did not take your film, you had nowhere else to sell it. Then Rock came on board. Then the cinemas came, right? And then the streaming giants came. And now that they are re-strategizing, the cinemas again look like the focal point. And every time it looks like we face one direction. And for an industry whose potential audience is 1.2 billion people globally, we have never really succeeded at selling to 10% of that number. There's been no time where we have been able to feed our addressable market. So you can't reach. So if you take Nigeria, you take the Black diaspora, you take the African diaspora, you take parts of Asia, you take, all these places around the world. At no time have we sorted out how we got to them, where we could faithfully say we can reach 10%, 120 million people at one time. So I'd like to see what we're doing about how we're doing streaming, we're doing VOD, SVODs, we're doing cinema, we are doing all at the same time. Not that we go to one when one doesn't seem to pass. Today, everybody says YouTube is the path. I'm making a film. I've come from set right now. After this interview, I'm going back on set, right? And that, unless YouTube cuts me a really large check, that film is not made for that platform, right? So we can't say now, oh, Nollywood's focus is now YouTube, everybody's making... No, Funke Akindele was on YouTube a decade ago, right? People have been on YouTube. Uduaki Song has had a channel forever. So we need to have that. We need to have cinema. We need to have streaming. We need to have everything at the same time. That, for me, is the real conversation.
Okay. We're running out of time, but I want us to talk about your film. What's it about?
So I have always been interested in two aspects of life. the savior and those that are willing to be saved. And I've always wondered which comes first. Do we wait for the savior? Do we save ourselves? So think of this guy, this Robin Hood wannabe in a Lagos urban ghetto who robs the rich to feed the poor in his environment and fights all the people that collect local taxes and all of that. But who is he? What is he running from? What is his own truth? Why is he hiding? How come nobody knows his name? How come he doesn't carry a phone? What kind of person is this? I'm trying to interrogate what it means to love in a time of war, what it means to be fascinated by a woman who might potentially be your killer. You know, what it means to love a place, to love a community, to love a society beyond your own personal desires, what it means to be faithful to your country, to your community at your personal risk. You know, and it's been 10 years in the making. I wrote the first draft of the screenplay during the lockdown. I've had the story for 5 years, around 5 years at that time. But funding and all of it has taken so long, and I'm eternally grateful for my, to my funding partners, my marketing partners, everyone that has come on board to make this film happen. It's the it's the biggest thing that I've ever done, and I'm lucky. I have done pretty big things in my career thus far, and this one looks like it's going to be massive.
Well, it sounds like you've written the trailer, you've written the promo, you've written everything else, but you've told us nothing at the end of the day. Just like the journalist that you are, you just don't want us to know what's happening.
Let's just say that I'm in very familiar company, so you're not very easy to trick, are you? But yeah, it's very. I feel like that place in your career where you get to do that thing you've always wanted to do, and you're only getting to do it because some people looked and said, you know what, if we are going to ever back anyone, MBO Capital, all the guys, if we're going to ever back anyone, this is the guy we should back for a project this big. I'm eternally grateful for that.
So if you were to categorize it, would it be an action movie?
I call it's a thriller that is sitting on a bed of drama. So we tend to, when we go into the ghettos, we tend to think of violence because that's how we see them as outsiders. But they have personal lives, they have hopes and dreams like the rest of us. They fall in love, they fall out of love, they get heartbroken. And, they deal with everything we deal with as humans on a daily basis. Therefore, I want to humanize them beyond and above what we are used to when we go there to tell the story. We tell stories of strife as if that's all of their life. But it is outsiders looking in that see those strifes. I'm shooting in an area in Lagos where we are 3 minutes away from Western Avenue. Is this still called Western Avenue?
No, Funshaw
Williams Avenue. We are 3 minutes away from it, but when you walk in beyond all the buildings you see off Funshaw Williams Avenue, I'm shooting in an area and you think you are in 1970s Lagos.
Whoa.
Yes. I'm jumping gutters, water puddles. You can see open septic tanks. And I'm like, we don't tell these stories this way. And in those kind of places, how can the people there be full humans? How can we look at their daily struggles and then say, well, all that is present, but look, they love, they hope, they dream,
They aspire.
They aspire. They are looking at 3rd Mainland Bridge and VI right above, right? It's a place of dream. You get, it's a place of aspiration. They want to go there. They don't have the opportunities, right? And then what do we then do about what they become? If they become armed robbers, we blame them. If they rob us in traffic, we blame them. But we forget that if we just turned around and looked at them and where they are, have we really done enough to, even if we leave them there, make sure they have a great life? And that's what I'm questioning.
Well, so many things to bring out from that already. What's the title? Does it have a title already? Or you want to keep it in the pocket?
Let's say that I have a couple of people watching who threaten me on a daily basis, and
Okay.
they say that until their strategy is ready,
Okay.
I must not mention the name.
I give up. I give up. I give up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
morning,
for having me.
Chris
It's been fun. It's great to
Ishidero.
be here again.
Truly appreciate your time here, and we can only, hope and dream. And when it's ready, when they finally release the name,
I'll be back. I'll be back to talk about it.
Okay,
I'll be
and
back.
possibly even maybe with one or two of the actors from time to time.
Surely.
To see what we can also do to assist. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Truly appreciate your time, Chris Hidero.
Thank you.
And that brings our show to a close today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your Saturday morning. Well, it's not afternoon yet, so 6 minutes to that time. I'm Maya Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and bye for now.